expected to be for quite some time.
Then I came to America in 1995.
First trip to the States. And first time in my life I touched the keyboard of computers.
And he started searching things on the internet. When he searched China, nothing came up in the search results. So he said to himself, if I can put Chinese companies on the internet and allow them to connect with business people in the US and other countries, I could create possibly a really powerful business.
I call myself at that time called like a blind man riding on the back of blind tigers. Without knowing anything about technology, computer, we started the first company.
He's gone against all convention. He says that he doesn't know anything about technology. It's hard to believe.
When he started his first company called China Pages, he would go knocking on the doors of government officials. They would really just turn him away, saying that what he was doing wasn't appropriate. He should just go back to maybe teaching English.
This was opening day for something called Windows 95. It has something to do with computers.
With Deng now gone, China's future will be shaped by a great power struggle.
Well, 1997 proved to be a watershed year for Asia, the year when the Asian economic miracle became a thing of the past.
There seems to be no stopping the speeding tech train. Technology stocks keep climbing into record territory.
2000, when the internet was starting to boom in China, a friend told me that there's a company trying to go global from an apartment in Hangzhou.
18 years ago, in my apartment, I told the 18 founders that one day we will build up a site. That site will be the top 10 sites of the world. Very few people believe that we will make it happen.
Jack's greatest strength is bringing together ordinary people to do these incredible things that they never thought was possible.
Most of my colleagues at 18 founders, they were my students, my friends. None of them are very successful. Among the 18 people, there are only 3 people who know something about computer.
Being first in China was a key. You've got to remember there was not a great infrastructure for even the telephone.
When Alibaba got started and when I joined the company, trying to sell businesses in China, the internet was like trying to sell magic beans to someone. I mean, they couldn't see it, they couldn't touch it, and here was this guy, this kind of interesting looking English teacher, coming door to door to try and tell people they should spend their money, several thousands of dollars, to put their company on this thing called the internet.
What it really was an opportunity for corporations, really, in other parts of the world to try to source manufacturing in China via the web.
In the past 18 years, when I do internet in China, we got a criticism every day. You know, something when you believe it, a lot of people criticize it. But if you really believe it, continue to do it, improve it.
We were rejected by more than 30 venture capitalists. But we are very optimistic. We believe in the future. We believe in internet. And we believe that if we do not succeed, somebody will.
The big investment came when Masayoshi-san of SoftBank met with Jack. And the story is that Masayoshi-san was in Beijing meeting with a number of internet entrepreneurs who presented very detailed business plans. But Jack Ma got up with no presentation and just a story, a vision of what he wanted to do, what he wanted Alibaba to become. And Masayoshi-san got so excited about it that he pledged to invest as much as $40 million in the company. And Jack Ma turned it down and said, you know what, we only need $20 million at this time.
Masa obviously gave capital to Jack Ma that he desperately needed, and also made the single greatest investment one could argue ever, period.
Jack Ma has played a very key role in sort of the development of the internet in China, but not as we originally imagined the internet would develop. He has used it as a vector for commerce.
So it started with some road shows with just maybe 100 people, then 200, then thousands more, where finally Jack turned this into a mass movement across China, where he educated small businesses about why they needed to use the internet. And he really created a revolution by educating these customers one person at a time.
This is such a big monster. It is something that never happened in the history before.
So we think we are changing China. We are helping China to the second level.
He understood what technology could do for the Chinese people in terms of affording them access to the world of product, and he's done it.
Alibaba went from this sort of optimistic expansion phase to this somewhat depressing phase of cutting back. And I think for just a moment in time, he even wondered if the company would survive.
The ecosystem of Africa, the life is not decided by lion, tiger, and elephant. Life is decided by the minor insects. For us, consumers, small business are the key. If we can serve these consumers and small business well, big companies will get involved. They will start, coming. So if you keep a good size of shrimps, all the sharks will come. Big fish will come.
When we started Alibaba B2B, we are helping small business to selling things across the board. So we think, which country has the best technology on the internet? We say USA. So we decided to build up a huge office in San Francisco.
But what happened was it created a disaster inside the company. We had a division where half the team was in the US, half the team was in China, and there was a lot of friction between the management.
So we know something wrong, we say we have to shut down the office.
And it was at a time in 2000 when the internet bust had hit us really hard, and we were laying off staff around the world.
A lot of analysts think the internet bubble is ready to burst, and by this time next year, a huge number of those .coms might be .gone.
And Alibaba went from this sort of optimistic expansion phase to this somewhat depressing phase of cutting back. That was the only time I ever saw him doubt himself, is when he was laying off people, and I think for just a moment in time he even wondered if the company would survive. And from that moment on he realized that being a CEO is different from being an English teacher. Being a CEO means making the tough decisions and sometimes cutting back in order to allow the company to survive. So from that moment on, I never saw Jack doubt himself again.
I watched a wonderful movie called Forrest Gump.
I was touched. He said, life's like a box of chocolate. You never know what you can get.
He really does love Forrest Gump.
But if you keep on getting, you will get one good chocolate.
He just sees it in some way as a corollary for the American dream and all the things you can potentially do in life.
And I found that Forrest Gump made a fortune by catching shrimps, not catching whales. So helping small business will make me like a Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, just to keep on running. Be simple, serve the people.
He can try to compare himself to Forrest Gump. He can't ever be Forrest Gump. He is right out there, right in front, doing everything that he thinks will be in a pioneering spirit. He is a pioneer, much more than Forrest Gump was.
He has always had the courage to live with his decisions and to move on and to reinvent. And I think that is the very definition today of bravery.
In the early days, a lot of people were trying to tell him to change the way he talked and change the way he acted. It wasn't CEO-like enough.
We should not, throw out the baby because the baby is crying too much.
And I watched him that just by being himself and being authentic and speaking with his own voice was something people found refreshing, and it was something that was easy for us to get behind.
President Bush is continuing his Asian tour.
The death toll has risen in the mystery pneumonia-like illness gripping much of Asia. Officials say
China made history this morning, launching its
Good morning, I'm Nick Gowing. I have been an international broadcaster. I'm now founder and director of a project about thinking the unthinkable, and that's what many of you are here to do. I'd like to introduce immediately Jack Ma, and I'd like to introduce Jack to come up and join me on the platform. Good morning, Jack. You've flown in from the People's Republic of China. Thank you very much indeed. Take a seat here. Because what we're going to do for the next hour is have a dialogue with Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, which is bigger than Amazon now, an extraordinary operation which he created in his apartment about 20 years ago, and look where it is now. It's to inspire, but also to understand many of the challenges. And what I'd like, if I may, to underscore how we're going to move this forward this morning, I'd like you to feel part of the conversation. Jack, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask anyone in the audience as well if they want to intervene on the conversation. And maybe if we can do that by raising the lights so I can see you. I can see an awful lot of mobile phones, but if someone could put the lights on, then I have a chance of finding out who else would like to join the conversation, because at the moment it's a blur of dark colors and some heads which are shining. Not many, but some are shining. But I'm here really to make sure this is a conversation. And I think it's worth underscoring, Jack, that you've said that you want to write a book which is Alibaba's 1001 Mistakes. Because it's easy to say to Jack, you're an extraordinary achiever with your co-founders and the enormity of what you've created, but it didn't come easily. There were many setbacks, and he wants to highlight that. And you've underscored very much that the bigger the company, the bigger the problems. You've said that time and time again. But we want to get, in the next 55 minutes, into understanding how you've also become a mentor for entrepreneurs. And there are many tensions that you have identified, and I'm underscoring this for the audience here, about the way in which technology is changing, about the way there's now a new line between people and machines. You've been saying we used to make people like machines. Now we must make machines like people. So I'm pushing you down the track of, I know where you want to go. The things we teach our kids, machines soon will do better, which creates an enormous educational challenge. And that's what Jack is now pioneering with his work in the People's Republic, but also around the world. And he underscored very much, this was in an interview he did back in May in Paris, he underscored exactly what you've just heard in the video. If you think the tech revolution is a problem, then I'm sorry to say the problem has only just started. If you think it's an opportunity, that opportunity has just started. And it's all about your mentality. If you worry, you're always going to worry, but don't think in that way. And what I'm doing, Jack, we weren't able to speak before we came on the platform. What I'm trying to do is set in context what we want to hear from you, not just about Ukraine, but about what you're seeing elsewhere. And I think it's important to underscore what the President has just said. Back on July the 29th, there was a presidential decree to boost e-government in this country. Hopefully by having the first steps in place within 6 months, 11 clear steps. But we want to hear from you, I think, and I'm going to tell you how you can make your feelings clear to me about when you want to intervene. What we want to do is understand the complexion now of the digital space in which you have been operating, in which you have made an extraordinary success, well ahead of Amazon, but others are moving up as well. And I think it's important to underscore that Ukraine does not have the time to repeat the development paths of leaders. In fact, Ukraine needs to create its own transformational miracle. And I urge you to pick up what the President said, what we've seen on the video, even if you're not familiar totally with Ukraine, where there are still 3,500 state companies, where there's still that transition going from the Soviet era to where we are 28 years later. We want to understand the role of cooperation between the state and business in matters of digitization, to again build on that. Could I ask, please, the tech people, could we have the lights up? Because we have 55 minutes, and I'd like to know who else wants to put questions. And at the moment, we can't really see anybody. So could someone put up some lights, please? There's someone there who is already using their own light, and they're putting up lights. That shows tech, low tech. Jack, welcome.
Thank you.
But the 1001 mistakes, what would you be saying in that book which you haven't written yet?
Well, first, you just say Ukraine cannot afford to copy the other country's success. I think no country can afford in today copy the other country, because we are entering into an area that's so new to anybody, to any country. I don't believe they're expert of future. There's only expert of yesterday. As entrepreneur, we believe in future. I'm very happy to hear President said, invest in the people. Invest in the SMEs, small business. Invest in the young people. Invest in the small business. This is the key. Last century, because of the industrial revolution, so the bigger the better. Next century, the smaller the better. The flexible is better. Last century, people say, you are big. So big is the standard. Next century is good. If you're a good company, you'll be good. Good company does not mean you have to be big.
How do you define a good company?
Good company is a company, you don't have to be big, because the bigger you are, the bigger problem you are. The good company means you take care of your employees, you take care of customers, you are respected, not because you're rich. We find we have a lot of people who are rich but not respected, right? When you do things, you should be happy. Your employees are happy. Your customers are happy. Society are happy. This is the key. So not necessarily you're big. I'm rich. No, rich means nothing.
But you created a company, an enormous organization. Do you regret having created a big organization then?
Yeah, if I could be able to try again, I would try to make my company not that big size. Unfortunately, it's growing so fast, so I tried to make a big size but good company.
But should you have said stop? Is there a time when you should have? Is that a mistake?
I tried to stop, but later I said, well, it's impossible to stop. Because I think with the technology, with the ideas, with the terrible experience we had, we can enable many, many small businesses. They are on the way to tomorrow. With our tough 20 years experience, we can share those experience, those mistakes with those entrepreneurs on the way.
Now, you have created and been lecturing yourself at your own business school for sustainability in China. I think it's been going 3 years. And you've emphasized where people have failed. Actually, I'd like to suggest you experimented, but it hasn't worked. Failure sounds too negative. What kind of examples are you using which suggest and make it clear the kind of traps that those out there can fall into?
Well, only when you give up, it's a failure. If you don't give up, it's just a mistake. Mistake is the best fertilizer for tomorrow's success. I think for a company like Alibaba, people say, hey guys, you're so lucky in 20 years. You have achieved that much. Yes, we're lucky, but we worked very hard. We made more mistakes than anybody can imagine. We made mistakes on raising capital, we made mistakes on management, and we made mistakes on HR, we made mistakes a lot of areas. But we
learned. Tell us more about those mistakes, Jack.
For example, when we don't have money, we don't make big mistakes. When I raised the $5 million I think, wow, I'm rich. So I tried to hire a lot of higher-ranking people from those Fortune 500. When I hire them, I know something rough. For example, I want to make a marketing plan for my product. So I asked my VP of marketing. He said he made a plan for $30 million. And I said, I only have $5 million. He said, Jack, I have never made any marketing plan below $20 million. So how could you succeed? And I think, wow, it's my problem. When your company is only a poor tractor, don't try to buy a Boeing 747 engine in it. Because it's not the Boeing engine problem. It's your problem. We are not ready. Don't think great people always in your company. Those people believe in you. Those people following you. You should spend the time training them, working with them, and developing them with them together, investing them, and then the company grows. This is a lesson I learned.
And you mentioned HR problems as well. You have an enormous operation. I mean, when it was so different from when you were in your apartment 20 years ago.
Yeah.
What were the HR problems which overwhelmed you?
Well, a lot of people want to have a quick success. They try to headhunting people, right? I want to get that guy. I want that guy. I want to win the competition. If you want to win the competition always in your mind, you're a professional killer. You're not the guy thinking about developing a company. So I was a teacher. I had no experience of marketing. I don't know anything about technology. I don't know anything about accounting, actually. So I know as a teacher, the best way is to find good students. Find the people who are better than you are. Find the people who are smart you are. Believe in your students are smarter than you are. So past 20 years, I try my best to be a good teacher. I call myself CEO, Chief Education Officer. I learn from a teacher. Thank you. A good teacher always hope that his students do better than him. A good teacher feel proud. This student become a TV anchor. This student become a banker. That student become a mayor. No teacher wants this guy bankrupt, that student in jail. Nobody wants that. So if you want your students to do better, you should give them more chance. You should trust them. You should give them opportunities. So from what I learned from my HR, I trust my people. Even to today, I give my advice to those young leaders. When they hire people, the advisor, hire the people. If you think this guy, in 5 years, he will be a boss, hire him.
Now, Jack, there are parallel challenges between what you've faced in the People's Republic of China, where there are an enormous number of state enterprises, and there remain a significant number of state enterprises here. And one part of our discussion has to be about how you transfer, how you translate that state mentality into what you're saying.
Well, this world, we got so many complaints. And as entrepreneur, we love other people complain. We never complain. We think the opportunity only lies in the place where people complain. I found a lot of people complain about SOE, state-owned enterprise. They are so big, they're so powerful. For me, we are so tiny. Why should we worry about it? There are plenty of room. When I'm big enough, I think we still should not complain. We compete with them. We prove to the society that we are more efficient. We prove to society we can do better. And this is what I'm doing. And complaining is so easy. Everywhere in this world, the thing worry about me is so many young people complaining. Complaining, you listen. If you solve the way complain, you solve the problem. So SOEs, state-owned business, they are big, they are everywhere. But you see, they're shrinking. They focus on tiny things. For us, the market is so big.
So what will you be telling the president?
Well,
on this particular